The Luna asked the pack lord, "Why is my mate's sigil in your great hall?" The truth shattered her. The wind howled through the dense forests of northern Montana, carrying with it the scent of pine and impending snow. Elna Hartwell stood at the edge of the Blackwood Pack territory, her breath forming small clouds in the frigid November air. She had been Luna of the Riverside Pack for 3 years now, ever since she'd bonded with Marcus, the strong and steady alpha who had swept her off her feet with his quiet intensity and unwavering devotion. Today's visit to the Blackwood territory was supposed to be routine, a diplomatic meeting to discuss hunting boundaries and trade agreements between their neighboring packs. Marcus had encouraged her to go, claiming he had pressing matters to attend to back home. She'd kissed him goodbye that morning, never suspecting that by nightfall, everything she believed about her life would crumble to dust. The Blackwood estate loomed before her, a massive stone structure that had stood for over 2 centuries. Lord Nathaniel Blackwood, the Pack Lord, was known throughout the region as a fair but formidable leader. His pack was one of the oldest and most respected in the Northwestern Territories. Before we continue, if you're enjoying this story, please subscribe and leave a comment letting us know where you're watching from. We love hearing from our viewers around the world. Elena was greeted at the entrance by Nathaniel himself, a tall man in his late 50s, with silver threading through his dark hair and eyes that seemed to see straight through to a person's soul. "Luna Hartwell," he said, his voice a deep rumble. "Welcome to Blackwood Hall. Please come in from the cold." She followed him through corridors lined with portraits of past pack lords and their families, the weight of history pressing down from every wall. They discussed the boundary disputes over tea in his study, reaching agreements that would benefit both packs. The conversation was pleasant, professional, and entirely unremarkable. "Would you like a tour of the hall before you depart?" Nathaniel asked as they concluded their business. "We've recently restored the Great Hall to its original glory. It's quite something to see." Elena agreed, partly out of politeness and partly out of genuine curiosity. The Blackwood Pack's history was legendary, and she'd heard stories of the Great Hall since childhood, tales of grand celebrations, solemn ceremonies, and the ancient traditions that bound pack members together across generations. Nathaniel led her through a set of massive oak doors, and Elena's breath caught in her throat. The Great Hall was magnificent. Vaulted ceilings soared overhead, supported by thick wooden beams carved with intricate patterns. Tapestries depicting pack history hung along the walls, and the enormous stone fireplace dominated one end of the room. But it was the wall opposite the fireplace that drew her attention and stopped her heart. Mounted in places of honor were the sigils of the pack's most distinguished members and allies. Each sigil was unique, a symbol representing a family line or an individual of particular importance. They were carved from wood or forged from metal, some ancient and weathered, others newer and gleaming. And there, in the center of the display, was a sigil she would have recognized anywhere. Marcus's sigil, the stylized wolf's head with the distinctive crescent moon behind it. She'd seen it 1,000 times. It was carved into the headboard of their bed, stamped on his personal correspondence, tattooed over his heart. She'd traced that symbol with her fingers on countless nights, feeling the warmth of his skin beneath her touch. But it couldn't be here. It made no sense. Elena's legs felt weak. She reached out to steady herself against a nearby pillar, her mind racing through possibilities, each more disturbing than the last. "Lord Blackwood," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "That sigil, the one in the center. Why is my mate's sigil in your great hall?" Nathaniel turned to look at the wall, then back at Elena. Something shifted in his expression. Surprise, followed by confusion, and then something that looked almost like pity. "Your mate?" he repeated slowly. "Luna Hartwell. That sigil has been in this hall for over 30 years. It belonged to my son." The world tilted beneath Elena's feet. "Your son?" "Yes, Damien Blackwood. He died 28 years ago, shortly after his 21st birthday." Nathaniel's voice was heavy with old grief. That was his personal sigil, designed by him when he came of age. It's been here ever since, in his memory. Elena's mouth went dry. That's impossible. That's Marcus's sigil. My husband, Marcus Hartwell, alpha of the Riverside Pack. Nathaniel's eyes widened. He crossed the room in 3 long strides, standing close enough that she could see the genuine shock in his face. Describe your mate to me. Everything. He's tall, dark hair, green eyes, a scar across his left shoulder blade from a territorial dispute before we met. He's 43 years old. Elena's voice broke. He's my husband. We've been bonded for 3 years. The Pack Lord's face had gone pale. Green eyes? A scar on the left shoulder blade? Yes. Why? Lord Blackwood, what's happening? Nathaniel turned away from her, his hands clenching into fists at his sides. When he spoke again, his voice was rough with emotion. Damien had green eyes and a scar on his left shoulder blade from a training accident when he was 19. But you said he died. We believed he died. Nathaniel interrupted. There was an attack. Rogues from the Eastern Territories. Damien was leading a patrol when they were ambushed. We found the bodies of his patrol members, all dead. We found Damien's blood, his torn clothing, evidence of a terrible fight, but we never found his body. Elena felt like she was drowning. You think Marcus is your son? I think, Nathaniel said carefully, that someone has been living under a false identity. Either your Marcus is my Damien, or someone is using a sigil that should have died with my son. No. Elena shook her head violently. No, Marcus would have told me. He wouldn't. We're bonded. You can't lie to your mate. The bond doesn't allow it. But even as she said the words, doubt crept in. Marcus had always been evasive about his past. He'd told her his family was dead, that he'd been a lone wolf before establishing the Riverside Pack 15 years ago. She'd accepted it, never pressing for details because she could feel the pain the subject caused him. Or had that pain been guilt? There's one way to know for certain, Nathaniel said. He walked to a cabinet along the wall and withdrew a leather-bound book. This is our pack registry. It contains detailed information about every member, including identifying marks. He flipped through pages until he found what he was looking for. Damien had a birthmark on his right hip, shaped like a crescent moon, about the size of a silver dollar. Elena's knees buckled. She sank onto a nearby bench, her whole body trembling. Marcus had that birthmark. She'd kissed it, teased him about it, traced its shape with her fingertips in the intimate darkness of their bedroom. Oh, God, she whispered. Nathaniel sat beside her, the ancient book still open in his hands. Tell me about him. About your Marcus. How did you meet? Elena struggled to form words through the chaos in her mind. I was traveling through Montana 3 years ago. My own pack, my birth pack, had been destroyed by a disease that swept through. I was alone, grieving. I stopped in a small town near the Riverside Territory, and Marcus found me. He was kind, patient. He helped me heal, and he told you he was an alpha, that he'd established his own pack. Yes, the Riverside Pack. It's small, maybe 30 members. Most of them are wolves who'd been displaced from other packs, looking for a new home. Marcus built something beautiful there. A community. A family. Nathaniel was quiet for a long moment. Damien was always drawn to strays, to those who didn't fit anywhere else. Even as a boy, he'd bring home injured animals, outcasts from other packs. He had a gift for making people feel like they belonged. Stop, Elena said sharply. Stop talking about him like they're the same person. Aren't they? Elena stood abruptly, pacing across the great hall. Her mind was a whirlwind of memories, each one taking on new meaning in light of this revelation. Marcus's reluctance to attend large pack gatherings, the way he'd steered her away from the Northern Territories, his insistence that they keep their bonding ceremony small and private. "Why?" she asked, turning to face Nathaniel. "If Marcus is Damien, why would he fake his death? Why would he abandon his pack, his family? Why would he hide from you?" "I don't know," Nathaniel admitted, "but I intend to find out." He stood and walked to a desk in the corner of the hall, pulling out a piece of paper and writing quickly. "I'm sending a message to the Riverside Territory. I'm requesting a meeting with Alpha Marcus Hartwell, here, tomorrow at noon. As pack lord of these territories, I have the authority to make such a summons." "He'll know something's wrong," Elena said. "He'll run. Then we'll find him." Nathaniel's voice was hard as stone. "If this man is my son, I deserve answers. And if he's an imposter using my son's sigil, he'll answer for that crime." Elena felt tears burning in her eyes. "And what about me? What about our bond?" Nathaniel's expression softened. "That I cannot answer. Bonds are sacred, but they can be built on lies just as easily as truth. The question is whether the foundation can survive when those lies are exposed." The pack lord dispatched his message with a runner, and Elena was offered a guest room for the night. She declined, saying she needed to return home, but Nathaniel convinced her to stay. "If he is hiding something, confronting him alone would be dangerous," Nathaniel said gently. "Stay here tonight. Let him come to you tomorrow. Let him answer these questions in front of witnesses." Elena agreed, though she knew she wouldn't sleep. She was shown to a comfortable room in the East Wing, but she spent the night pacing, her mind replaying every moment of her relationship with Marcus, searching for clues she'd missed. The bond between them pulsed with her distress. She could feel Marcus's concern through it, his confusion at her emotional turmoil. He tried to reach out to her mentally, but she blocked him, unable to face him until she knew the truth. Dawn came cold and gray. Elena dressed in the same clothes she'd worn the day before, her hands shaking as she buttoned her shirt. She made her way to the Great Hall, where Nathaniel was already waiting, along with several of his senior pack members. "He responded," Nathaniel said, holding up a message. "He'll be here at noon." The hours crawled by. Elena couldn't eat the breakfast that was offered. She stood by the window, watching the forest road, dreading and desperately wanting to see Marcus appear. At precisely noon, a vehicle pulled up to the estate. Elena's heart clenched as Marcus stepped out, looking as handsome and solid as ever in his dark coat, his hair slightly tousled by the wind. But as he walked toward the entrance, she saw the tension in his shoulders, the wariness in his eyes. He knew something was wrong. Nathaniel met him at the door to the Great Hall. Elena hung back, partially hidden by one of the pillars, watching. "Alpha Hartwell," Nathaniel said formally. "Thank you for coming." "Lord Blackwood." Marcus's voice was controlled, but Elena could hear the undercurrent of stress. "Your message said this was urgent. Is Elena—" His eyes found her across the hall, and relief flooded his face. "You're here. I felt your distress last night. What's wrong?" Elena stepped forward, her legs feeling like lead. "You tell me, Marcus. Or should I call you Damien?" The color drained from Marcus's face. For a long moment no one spoke. The only sound was the crackling of the fire in the great hearth. "Elena," Marcus began, but Nathaniel cut him off. "Is it true?" the pack lord demanded. "Are you my son?" Marcus, or Damien, closed his eyes. When he opened them again, they were filled with a pain so deep that Elena felt it through their bond like a physical blow. "Yes," he whispered. "I'm Damien Blackwood." Elena felt the world drop out from beneath her. Even though she'd suspected, even though all the evidence pointed to it, hearing him confirm it was like being struck by lightning. "How could you?" Nathaniel's voice shook with fury and grief. "How could you let me believe you were dead for 28 years? Do you have any idea what that did to your mother, to me, to your sister?" "I know," Damien said, his voice breaking. "I know, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "Sorry?" Nathaniel roared. "Sorry doesn't begin to cover this. Explain yourself. Now." Damien ran a hand through his hair, a gesture Elena had seen 1,000 times, but which now seemed to belong to a stranger. "The attack was real. The rogues were real. My patrol was slaughtered, and I was left for dead. But I didn't die. I was found by a human, a doctor who lived in a cabin in the woods. She saved my life." He paused, his eyes distant with memory. "While I was recovering, I had time to think. Time to realize that I didn't want the life that had been planned for me. I was supposed to be Pack Lord one day, to carry on the Blackwood legacy, to make all the right alliances and political moves. But I didn't want that. I wanted to build something different, something that wasn't about bloodlines and tradition." "So you faked your death?" Nathaniel's voice was incredulous. "You let your family mourn you?" "I thought it would be easier," Damien said quietly. "A clean break. I thought you'd grieve and move on. I thought Sarah would take over as heir and do a better job than I ever could have. I thought—" His voice cracked. "I thought I was setting everyone free." "You were a coward," Nathaniel spat. "Yes," Damien agreed. "I was. I am." Elena finally found her voice. "And me? What about me? Marcus, Damien, whoever you are. Was I just part of your new life? Your fresh start built on lies?" Damien turned to her, and the anguish in his eyes was real. She could feel it through their bond, a tidal wave of regret and love and desperate fear. "No," he said fiercely. "Elena, you were never a lie. Meeting you, falling in love with you, bonding with you. That was the most real thing in my life. I should have told you the truth. I wanted to tell you 1,000 times. But I was afraid." "Afraid of what?" "Afraid you'd look at me exactly the way you're looking at me right now. Like I'm a stranger. Like everything we built together means nothing." Elena wrapped her arms around herself, trying to hold together the pieces of her breaking heart. "How can I trust anything you've told me? Our entire relationship is based on a lie." "Not our entire relationship," Damien insisted, taking a step toward her. She backed away, and she saw him flinch. "My name was a lie. My past was a lie. But my love for you? That was always true. Is always true." "Love built on deception isn't love," Elena said, tears streaming down her face. "It's manipulation." "Then let me prove it to you," Damien pleaded. "Let me spend the rest of my life proving that what we have is real." "Enough," Nathaniel interrupted. "You don't get to make promises to her until you've answered for what you've done to this family. Your mother died 5 years ago, Damien. She died believing her son was dead. You stole her chance to see you again, to know you were alive." The words hit Damien like physical blows. He staggered, his face crumbling. "Mom's dead." "Yes, heart failure. But I think it was really a broken heart that killed her. She never recovered from losing you." Damien sank to his knees, a broken sound tearing from his throat. Elena's instinct was to go to him, to comfort him, but she forced herself to stay still. She couldn't trust her instincts anymore. Everything she thought she knew had been a lie. "Your sister is still alive," Nathaniel continued, his voice slightly softer. "Sarah. She's been running the pack with me since your mother passed. She deserves to know you're alive." "I can't," Damien whispered. "I can't face her." "You will," Nathaniel said firmly. "You owe her that much. You owe all of us that much." The pack lord turned to one of his senior members. "Send for Sarah. Tell her to come immediately. Tell her—" He paused, emotion flickering across his face. Tell her that her brother has come home. Over the next hour, more Blackwood Pack members filtered into the Great Hall as word spread of the impossible return. Elena stood apart from them all, watching as Damien remained on his knees, his head bowed, accepting their shock and anger and disbelief. She could feel his emotions through their bond, shame, grief, regret, and underneath it all, a desperate love directed at her. But she didn't know what to do with that love anymore. How could she trust it? Finally, the great doors burst open, and a woman rushed in. She was in her late 40s, with the same dark hair and green eyes as Damien, her face a feminine version of his features. "Where is he?" she demanded. "Where's my—" Her eyes found Damien, and she froze. For a long moment, they simply stared at each other across the hall. "Damien?" Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. He stood slowly, his face wet with tears. "Hey, little sister." Sarah crossed the distance between them in a blur of motion, and Elena expected her to strike him. Instead, she threw her arms around him, sobbing into his shoulder. "You bastard," Sarah choked out. "You absolute bastard. I thought you were dead. I mourned you. How could you do this to us?" "I'm sorry," Damien said, holding his sister tight. "I'm so sorry, Sarah." They clung to each other, years of grief and loss pouring out in broken words and tears. Elena watched, feeling like an outsider in a family drama that had nothing to do with her. Except it had everything to do with her. Because the man she'd married, the man she'd bonded her soul to, was at the center of it all. Eventually, Sarah pulled back, wiping her eyes. "You have to explain. You have to tell us everything. Why you left. Why you stayed away. Why you let us believe—" Her voice broke again. "I will," Damien promised. "I'll tell you everything." And he did. Over the next several hours, Damien laid out the full story. The attack by the rogues. His rescue by the human doctor, a woman named Margaret who had asked no questions and demanded no explanations. His months of recovery in her cabin, during which he'd wrestled with his future. "I was supposed to be this perfect heir," Damien explained, groomed from birth to take over the pack. "But I didn't want that life. I wanted to help wolves who didn't fit into the traditional pack structures. Lone wolves, outcasts, those who'd been rejected by their birth packs. So, you started the Riverside Pack," Nathaniel said. "Yes. It took years to build. I changed my name, created a new identity. I told everyone my family was dead because in a way I'd made them dead. I'd chosen to leave them behind." "And you never thought to reach out?" Sarah asked, pain evident in her voice. "Never thought we might want to know you were alive?" "Every day," Damien admitted. "Every single day I thought about it. But the longer I stayed away, the harder it became to imagine coming back. How do you apologize for something like this? How do you explain it?" "You just did," Nathaniel said quietly. "It doesn't make it right, but at least now we understand." Damien turned to Elena, who had remained silent throughout his confession. "Elena, please, say something." She looked at him, really looked at him, trying to reconcile the man she'd married with this stranger who had lived an entire life before her. A life he'd hidden away like a shameful secret. "I don't know what to say," she admitted. "I don't even know who you are." "I'm the same man who held you when you cried for your lost pack," Damien said urgently. "The same man who promised to build a new home with you. The same man who loves you more than anything in this world. But you're also a man who lied to me every single day for 3 years, Elena countered. You're a man who let his family believe he was dead. You're a man who built his entire life on deception. I know, and I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you, if you'll let me." Elena shook her head slowly. "I need time. I need space to process this. I can't be near you right now." The pain that crossed Damien's face was visceral, but he nodded. "I understand. Take all the time you need." "Lord Blackwood," Elena said, turning to Nathaniel. "May I stay here for a few days? I don't want to return to the Riverside territory yet." "Of course," Nathaniel said gently. "You're welcome here as long as you need." "Thank you." Elena looked at Damien one last time. "I need you to leave, please." Damien opened his mouth as if to argue, then closed it. He nodded once, a sharp, painful movement. "I love you, Elena. That's the one truth I can give you. I love you, and I'll wait as long as it takes." He turned and walked out of the great hall, his shoulders bowed under the weight of his choices. Sarah moved to follow him, but Nathaniel stopped her. "Let him go," the Pack Lord said. "He needs to sit with what he's done. We all do." Over the following days, Elena remained at Blackwood Hall, trying to piece together her shattered world. Sarah visited her often, sharing stories of the brother she'd known, a kind, idealistic young man who had always felt trapped by expectations. "He was never meant to be Pack Lord," Sarah confided one evening, as they sat by the fire in Elena's guest room. "He was too soft-hearted, too focused on individuals rather than the collective. Father tried to mold him into something he wasn't, and I think it broke something inside him." "That doesn't excuse what he did," Elena said. "No," Sarah agreed. "It doesn't, but maybe it helps explain it. Damien always felt like he was suffocating under the weight of our family legacy. I think he saw that attack as a chance to escape, and he took it without thinking about the consequences." "He thought about them," Elena said bitterly. "He just decided his freedom was worth more than your grief." Sarah was quiet for a moment. "Are you going to leave him?" "I don't know," Elena admitted. "The bond between us is still there. I can feel him, even now. His love, his regret, his fear of losing me. But I don't know if love is enough when trust is gone." "Trust can be rebuilt," Sarah offered, "if both people are willing to do the work." "Maybe, but I'm not sure I'm willing. Every time I look at him now, I see the lie. I see 3 years of deception. How do I get past that?" Sarah didn't have an answer. On the 5th day of Elena's stay at Blackwood Hall, Nathaniel requested a private meeting with her. They sat in his study, the same room where this nightmare had begun. "I've been thinking about your situation," Nathaniel said, without preamble. "About the bond between you and my son." "What about it?" "Bonds can be broken," Nathaniel said carefully. "It's rare, and it's painful, but it can be done. If you choose to leave Damien, I can arrange for a ritual that would sever the bond between you." Elena's heart clenched. "You'd do that, even though he's your son?" "I'd do it because he's my son," Nathaniel corrected. "Because I love him, and I want him to face the full consequences of his actions. If you choose to leave, he needs to accept that. He needs to understand that some betrayals can't be forgiven." "But," Nathaniel smiled slightly, "but I also want you to be sure. Bonds are precious things. Once broken, they can never be reformed. If there's any part of you that thinks you might forgive him, that you might want to rebuild what you had, then don't make a decision in anger." Elena leaned back in her chair, exhaustion washing over her. "I don't know what I want. Part of me wants to run as far from him as possible. But another part..." She touched her chest, where she could feel the bond pulsing. "Another part still loves him, still wants him, and I hate myself for it." "Don't hate yourself for loving him," Nathaniel said gently. "Love isn't something we can control, but what we do with that love, that's a choice. You get to choose whether his betrayal is something you can move past, or whether it's broken you beyond repair." How do I make that choice? You talk to him. You ask him the hard questions. You make him look you in the eye and explain every lie, every deception, every moment he chose his comfort over your right to the truth. And then you listen to your heart. Elena nodded slowly. I'll think about it. That night, Elena lay awake in her guest room, staring at the ceiling. Through the bond, she could feel Damien's sleeplessness, his anguish, his desperate hope that she would forgive him. She thought about the life they'd built together at the Riverside Pack, the small cabin they shared, filled with laughter and love, the pack members who looked to them for guidance and support, the quiet moments of peace she'd found in his arms after years of grief and loneliness. Had all of that been real? Or had it been built on a foundation of lies that was always destined to crumble? By dawn, Elena had made her decision. She found Nathaniel at breakfast and told him she was ready to see Damien. The pack lord nodded and sent a message to the Riverside territory. Damien arrived within hours, looking haggard and worn. Elena met him in the Great Hall, the same place where her world had shattered. Thank you for seeing me, Damien said quietly. I need answers, Elena said. Real answers. No more lies, no more half-truths. If you want any chance of salvaging this, you owe me complete honesty. Anything, Damien promised. Ask me anything. Elena took a deep breath. Did you ever plan to tell me the truth? Yes, Damien said without hesitation. 1,000 times I almost told you. But I was afraid. Afraid you'd leave me. Afraid you'd hate me. So I kept putting it off, telling myself I'd find the right moment. And that moment never came. What about our bond? Did you manipulate that somehow? Make me feel things that weren't real? No, Damien said fiercely. Elena, I swear to you, the bond between us is genuine. I didn't manipulate it or force it. What you feel from me is real. My love for you is the most honest thing in my life. But everything else was a lie. Yes, Damien admitted, his voice breaking. Everything else was a lie. And I will regret that for the rest of my life. Elena felt tears burning in her eyes. How can I trust you again? How can I believe anything you say? I don't know, Damien said honestly. I don't know if you can, but I want to try. I want to spend every day proving to you that I can be the man you deserve. The man who tells you the truth, even when it's hard. Even when it costs me everything. It might cost you everything, Elena warned. I might not be able to forgive this. I know, but I have to try, because losing you would destroy me. They stood in silence for a long moment, the weight of broken trust hanging between them like a physical barrier. Finally, Elena spoke. I'm not ready to come home yet. I need more time, but I'm willing to try. I'm willing to see if we can rebuild what we had. Hope flared in Damien's eyes. Really? On one condition, Elena said firmly. No more secrets, no more lies. If I ask you something, you tell me the truth, even if it hurts, even if you think it will make me leave. Complete honesty, or we're done. Do you understand? Yes, Damien said immediately. Yes, I understand. I promise, Elena. No more lies. Don't promise, Elena said. Just do it. Promises from you don't mean much to me right now. Damien flinched but nodded. You're right. I'll show you. However long it takes, I'll show you that you can trust me again. Elena wrapped her arms around herself. I'm going to stay here for another week. I need time away from the Riverside territory, away from the life we built together. I need to figure out who I am without you, so I can decide if I want to be with you. I understand, Damien said, though she could feel his pain through the bond. And when I come back, if I come back, things are going to be different. You're going to tell the pack the truth about who you are. You're going to reconnect with your family. No more hiding. No more running from your past." "Agreed," Damien said. "Whatever you need, whatever it takes." Elena looked at him, this man she loved and hated in equal measure. "I hope you mean that, because I can't go through this again. If you lie to me one more time, I'm gone. Forever." "I won't," Damien said. "I swear on my life, on our bond, on everything I am, I won't lie to you again." Elena nodded, not trusting herself to speak. Damien hesitated, then turned and left the great hall, leaving her alone with her thoughts and her shattered heart. Over the following week, Elena spent time with Sarah and Nathaniel, learning about the Blackwood Pack and the man Damien had been before he became Marcus. She saw pictures of him as a young man, idealistic, passionate, trapped by expectations he couldn't meet. She began to understand, though understanding didn't equal forgiveness. Sarah shared stories of their childhood, of Damien's kindness and his struggles. "He was never cut out for leadership in the traditional sense," Sarah said, "but he was brilliant at connecting with individuals, at making people feel seen and valued. That's why the Riverside Pack works, because he built it on those principles." "He built it on lies," Elena countered. "He built it on a lie about his identity," Sarah corrected, "but the principles were real. The care he showed for those wolves was real, just like his love for you is real." Elena wanted to believe that. She wanted to believe that something good could come from all this pain. On the 8th day, Elena woke with a sense of clarity. She knew what she needed to do. She found Nathaniel in his study and told him her decision. The Pack Lord listened, then nodded gravely. "Are you sure?" he asked. "No," Elena admitted. "But I'm willing to try. That's all I can offer right now." "Then I wish you luck," Nathaniel said. "Both of you will need it." Elena returned to the Riverside territory that afternoon. Damien was waiting for her at the border, his face a mixture of hope and fear. "I'm coming home," Elena said without preamble. "But things are going to change." "Anything?" Damien said. "Tell me what you need." "First, you're going to call a pack meeting. Tonight. You're going to tell everyone the truth about who you are and where you came from. No more secrets." Damien paled, but nodded. "Okay. Second, you're going to rebuild your relationship with your family. Sarah and Nathaniel deserve to have you back in their lives, and you're going to make that happen." "I will." "Third," Elena said, her voice hardening, "you're going to earn back my trust. Every single day you're going to show me that you're worthy of the bond between us. And if you fail, if you lie to me even once, I'm done. Do you understand?" "I understand," Damien said. "Elena, Don't," she interrupted. "Don't tell me you love me. Don't make promises. Just show me. That's all I want from you right now." Damien nodded, pain evident in his eyes, but also determination. "I'll show you. I'll spend the rest of my life showing you." That evening, the Riverside Pack gathered in the main hall. Elena stood beside Damien as he faced the wolves who had followed him, trusted him, built their lives around the community he'd created. "I have something to tell you all," Damien began, his voice steady despite the fear Elena could feel through their bond. "Something I should have told you years ago. My name isn't Marcus Hartwell. It's Damien Blackwood, and I'm the son of Lord Nathaniel Blackwood of the Blackwood Pack." Shocked murmurs rippled through the crowd. Damien held up a hand for silence. 28 years ago, I faked my death to escape a life I didn't want. I let my family believe I was dead so I could start over. I built this pack under a false identity, and I've been lying to all of you since the day we met." The murmurs grew louder, angry now. Elena watched as the pack members she'd come to know and care for processed this betrayal. "I don't expect you to forgive me," Damien continued. "I don't expect you to stay. If you want to leave, I'll understand. But I want you to know that while my name was a lie, everything else was real. My commitment to this pack, my belief in what we've built together, my care for each of you, that was all real. A young wolf named Jacob stood up. How can we trust anything you say now? You've been lying to us for years. You can't, Damien said honestly. Not right now, but I hope, over time, I can earn that trust back. I hope I can show you that the man you knew as Marcus Hartwell is who I really am, regardless of the name I was born with. The meeting went on for hours, with pack members asking questions, expressing anger and betrayal, and ultimately deciding whether to stay or go. By the end of the night, 5 wolves had chosen to leave. The rest, including Jacob, decided to give Damien a chance to prove himself. We're staying because of what you've built here, Jacob said. Because of the community and the principles you taught us. But you're right. You need to earn our trust back. And that's going to take time. I understand, Damien said. Thank you for giving me that chance. As the pack dispersed, Elena and Damien walked back to their cabin in silence. Inside, the familiar space felt different somehow, charged with the weight of everything that had happened. Thank you, Damien said quietly, for coming back, for giving me a chance. Don't thank me yet, Elena said. We have a long way to go. I know, but we'll get there, together. Elena looked at him, this man she loved and barely knew. I hope so, because I don't know if I can survive losing you twice. Damien pulled her into his arms, and Elena let herself lean into his warmth, into the familiar comfort of his embrace. Through their bond, she felt his love, his regret, his desperate determination to make things right. It wasn't enough. Not yet. But it was a start. Over the following months, Damien worked tirelessly to rebuild the trust he'd shattered. He made regular trips to Blackwood territory, reconnecting with Sarah and Nathaniel, slowly mending the family bonds he'd severed. He was completely transparent with Elena about his past, answering every question no matter how painful. And slowly, painfully, Elena began to forgive him. It wasn't easy. There were nights when she woke up angry, feeling the weight of his deception all over again. There were moments when she questioned whether she could ever truly trust him. But there were also moments of genuine connection, of rediscovering the love that had brought them together in the first place. One evening, 6 months after the truth had come out, Elena and Damien sat on the porch of their cabin, watching the sun set over the forest. Do you regret it? Elena asked. Coming back to me? Facing all of this? Damien looked at her, his green eyes clear and honest. I regret the lies. I regret the pain I caused you and my family. But coming back to you? Facing the truth? No, I don't regret that. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, but it was also the right thing. Elena nodded slowly. I'm glad you did. Even though it hurt, even though it's still hard sometimes, I'm glad I know the truth. Me too, Damien said. He reached for her hand, and after a moment's hesitation, she let him take it. I love you, Elena. The real you, the real me. No more lies between us. Just us. Elena squeezed his hand, feeling the bond between them pulse with warmth and love and hard-won trust. I love you too. Both versions of you, Marcus and Damien, because they're both part of who you are. Thank you, Damien whispered, for not giving up on me, for giving me a chance to be better. Don't thank me, Elena said with a small smile. Just keep being honest. Keep being the man I fell in love with. That's all I need. I will, Damien promised, every day for the rest of my life. And this time, Elena believed him. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. Trust, once broken, takes years to fully rebuild. But as they sat together in the fading light, Elena felt something she hadn't felt in months. Hope. Hope that they could overcome this. Hope that their love was strong enough to survive the truth. Hope that, despite everything, they could build a future together based not on lies, but on the painful, beautiful reality of who they truly were. Olá. Entendi perfeitamente. Você gostaria de adicionar mais capítulo? Prepararei conteúdo completo para você com essa nova sessão. The morning sun filtered through the cabin windows as Elena stirred awake, the familiar warmth of Damien beside her, a comfort she'd learned to trust again. It had been a year since the truth had shattered her world, and while the cracks were still visible, they'd been carefully mended with patience, honesty, and unwavering commitment. She slipped out of bed quietly, pulling on a robe as she made her way to the kitchen. The Riverside territory was peaceful at this hour, the pack members still sleeping in their homes scattered throughout the forest. Elena had grown to love these quiet moments, when she could think without the weight of pack responsibilities pressing down on her. As she started the coffee, she heard Damien's footsteps behind her. His arms wrapped around her waist, and he pressed a kiss to her shoulder. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked softly. "Just thinking," Elena replied, leaning back into his embrace. "Sarah's coming today with the integration proposal. Are you nervous?" Damien was quiet for a moment. Terrified, actually. What if it doesn't work? What if bringing the two packs together just creates more problems? Elena turned in his arms to face him. "Then we'll handle it. Together. That's what we do now, remember? No more carrying burdens alone." He smiled, though she could see the anxiety in his eyes. "When did you become the wise one in this relationship?" "I've always been the wise one," Elena teased. "You were just too busy lying to notice." The joke was still a bit sharp, but Damien had learned to accept her occasional barbs about his past deception. They were part of her healing process, and he took them without complaint. "Fair point," he conceded, kissing her forehead. "Come on, let's have breakfast before everyone arrives. I have a feeling today is going to be long." They were finishing their meal when a knock sounded at the door. Damien opened it to find Sarah standing there, looking professional in dark slacks and a blazer, a leather portfolio tucked under her arm. Behind her stood Nathaniel, his presence commanding even in casual clothing. "Father," Damien said, surprise evident in his voice. "I didn't know you were coming." "Did you think I'd miss this?" Nathaniel replied, stepping inside. "This is historic, 2 packs considering integration. I wanted to see how my children handle it." Sarah rolled her eyes affectionately. "He means he wanted to make sure we don't mess it up." "That, too," Nathaniel admitted with a slight smile. Elena embraced Sarah warmly. Over the past year, the 2 women had formed a genuine friendship, bonding over their shared experience of loving complicated Blackwood men. Sarah had been instrumental in helping Elena process her feelings about Damien's betrayal, offering perspective without excusing her brother's actions. They gathered around the dining table, spreading out maps and documents. The proposal was ambitious, a gradual integration of the Riverside Pack into the Blackwood Pack, creating a unified territory with shared resources and leadership. "The key is maintaining what makes Riverside special," Sarah explained, pointing to her notes. "Your focus on displaced wolves, on creating a home for those who don't fit traditional pack structures, that's valuable. We don't want to lose that in the integration." "So we'd essentially become a division of Blackwood?" Damien asked, studying the maps. "More like a partnership," Nathaniel corrected. "Blackwood provides resources, protection, and legitimacy. Riverside provides innovation, flexibility, and a model for how we can evolve pack structures to meet modern needs." Elena listened carefully, asking questions about how pack members would be affected, what would happen to those who didn't want to integrate, and how leadership would be structured. She'd learned over the past year to be more assertive in pack decisions. Damien had made it clear that she was his equal partner in all things, and she'd grown into that role. "What about those who left after the truth came out?" Elena asked. Jacob mentioned that 2 of them have been in contact, asking about coming back. Damien looked up, surprise flickering across his face. They have? He didn't tell me. He told me, Elena said gently. He wasn't sure how you'd react. But I think if we're moving forward with this integration, we should reach out to them, offer them a place in the new structure. That's generous of you, Sarah observed, considering they left when things got difficult. They left because they felt betrayed, Elena said. I understand that feeling, but people deserve second chances. Damien got one. Why shouldn't they? Damien reached for her hand under the table, squeezing it gratefully. You're right. We should reach out to them. All of them. They spent the next several hours hammering out details, debating structures, and planning how to present the proposal to both packs. It was exhausting work, but Elena found herself energized by it. This was something real, something that could make a genuine difference in the lives of wolves who'd been marginalized by traditional pack systems. As the afternoon sun began to slant through the windows, Nathaniel stood and stretched. I think we have a solid foundation here. But before we go any further, there's something I need to address. The room fell quiet. Elena felt Damien tense beside her. Damien, Nathaniel said, his voice formal. When you left, you abdicated your position as heir to the Blackwood Pack. Sarah has been groomed to take over as Pack Lord, and she's more than capable of the role. I know, Damien said quietly. I never expected... Let me finish, Nathaniel interrupted. However, if this integration moves forward, we'll need strong leadership on both sides. Sarah will eventually become Pack Lord of the Unified Territory. But we need someone to oversee the Riverside Division. Someone who understands its unique culture and needs. He paused, his eyes fixed on his son. I'm asking you to take on that role officially. Not as my heir, but as a leader in your own right. As the wolf you've become, not the one you were born to be. Damien looked stunned. Father, I don't know if I'm worthy of... Stop, Nathaniel said firmly. You've spent a year proving your worth. You've faced your mistakes, rebuilt trust, and created something valuable here. It's time to stop punishing yourself and accept that you have something to offer. Elena watched as emotions played across Damien's face. Surprise, gratitude, fear, and finally, determination. I'll do it, Damien said, but only if Elena agrees to lead with me, officially, as co-leader of the Riverside Division. All eyes turned to Elena. She felt her heart race, the weight of the moment pressing down on her. Me? She asked. Damien, I don't have the experience. You have exactly the experience we need, Sarah interjected. You've been leading alongside Damien for the past year, even if it wasn't official. The pack members respect you. They trust you. And frankly, you bring a perspective that Damien lacks. You know what it's like to lose everything and rebuild. That's the heart of what Riverside represents. Elena looked at Damien, who was watching her with quiet hope. Through their bond, she could feel his confidence in her, his belief that she was capable of this. What do you think? She asked him softly. I think you're the strongest person I know, Damien replied. I think you've already been doing this job, and it's time we made it official. But it's your choice, Elena. Always your choice. Elena took a deep breath, thinking about the journey that had brought her here. From a lone wolf grieving her lost pack, to a Luna struggling with betrayal, to a woman who'd found her strength in the midst of chaos. Okay, she said finally. I'll do it. We'll do it together. The smile that broke across Damien's face was radiant. Sarah clapped her hands together in delight, and even Nathaniel looked pleased. Then it's settled, the Pack Lord said. We'll present the proposal to both packs next month. That gives us time to work out the remaining details and prepare everyone for the transition. As Nathaniel and Sarah prepared to leave, Elena walked Sarah to the door. The other woman paused on the threshold, turning back with a serious expression. "Thank you," Sarah said quietly. "For what?" "For not giving up on him. For giving him a chance to be better. I know it wasn't easy, and I know there are still hard days. But you've helped him become the man he was always meant to be." Elena felt tears prick her eyes. "He did the work himself. I just chose to stay and witness it." "That's more than he deserved," Sarah said. "But I'm grateful you did. We all are." After they left, Elena and Damien stood on the porch, watching the sun set over their territory. The forest was alive with the sounds of evening, birds settling into their nests, the distant howl of a wolf on patrol, the rustle of wind through the trees. "Are you sure about this?" Damien asked. "The co-leadership? I don't want you to feel pressured." "I'm sure," Elena said. "Scared, but sure. This feels right, Damien. Like this is what we've been building toward all along." He pulled her close, and she rested her head on his shoulder. "I love you," he murmured into her hair. "Thank you for believing in me, in us." "I love you too," Elena replied. "Both versions of you. Marcus and Damien. The man you were and the man you've become." They stood there in comfortable silence as darkness fell, the bond between them pulsing with warmth and love and hard-won trust. The road behind them had been painful, marked by betrayal and broken trust. But the road ahead was full of possibility. The following weeks were a whirlwind of activity. Damien and Elena worked with Sarah and Nathaniel to finalize the integration proposal, addressing concerns from both packs and creating a structure that honored the traditions of Blackwood while preserving the innovative spirit of Riverside. Elena found herself stepping into her leadership role with growing confidence. She organized meetings with pack members, listening to their concerns and incorporating their feedback into the plans. She discovered she had a talent for mediation, for finding common ground between opposing viewpoints. One afternoon, she was meeting with a group of younger pack members when Jacob approached her privately. "Luna," he said formally, "can I speak with you?" "Of course, Jacob. What's on your mind?" The young wolf shifted uncomfortably. "It's about the integration. Some of us are worried that we'll lose what makes Riverside special, that we'll just become another traditional pack with all the hierarchy and politics we came here to escape." Elena nodded, understanding his concern. "That's a valid fear. Can I ask you something, Jacob? Why did you stay when the truth about Damien came out? You were angry, I remember. You had every right to leave." Jacob was quiet for a moment. "I stayed because of what he built here, not who he was. This place gave me a home when I had nowhere else to go. It gave me a purpose. I didn't want to lose that." "Exactly," Elena said. "And that's not going to change. The integration isn't about making Riverside disappear into Blackwood. It's about expanding what we've built here, giving it more resources and protection so we can help even more displaced wolves. The heart of Riverside, the acceptance, the focus on individuals, the flexibility, that stays. That's non-negotiable. You promise?" "I promise," Elena said firmly. "And if you ever feel like we're losing our way, you come to me or Damien. We're all responsible for protecting what makes this place special." Jacob nodded, looking relieved. "Thank you, Luna. That's what I needed to hear." As he walked away, Elena felt a surge of pride. This was what leadership meant, not just making decisions, but listening, reassuring, and staying true to the values that mattered. That evening, she shared the conversation with Damien as they prepared dinner together. He listened thoughtfully, stirring a pot of stew while she chopped vegetables. "You handled that perfectly," he said. "Better than I would have, probably. I would have gotten defensive, tried to explain all the reasons why it would work. But you just listened and addressed his real concern." "We're a team," Elena reminded him. "Your strengths balance my weaknesses, and vice versa. That's why the co-leadership works. Damien set down his spoon and crossed to her, cupping her face in his hands. Have I told you today how grateful I am for you? Only 3 times, Elena teased. But I'll accept a 4th. He kissed her softly, and she felt the bond between them flare with warmth. A year ago, she'd thought this bond might be broken beyond repair. Now, it was stronger than ever, tempered by honesty and hard work. The night of the joint pack meeting arrived. Both Blackwood and Riverside members gathered in a large clearing on the border between their territories. Torches lit the space, casting dancing shadows across the assembled wolves. Elena stood beside Damien at the front, with Sarah and Nathaniel flanking them. She could feel the nervous energy of the crowd, the mix of excitement and apprehension about what was being proposed. Nathaniel spoke first, his voice carrying authority and warmth. We gather tonight to discuss a new chapter in our pack's histories, not a merger where one pack absorbs another, but a true integration, a partnership that honors both our traditions and our innovations. Sarah took over, explaining the practical details of the proposal. She was articulate and confident, every inch the future pack lord she was meant to be. Elena found herself admiring the other woman's poise. Then it was Damien's turn. He stepped forward, and Elena could feel his nervousness through their bond. But when he spoke, his voice was steady. A year ago, I stood before the Riverside pack and told you the truth about who I am. I told you about my lies, my deception, and my past. Many of you chose to stay and give me a chance to prove myself. Tonight, I'm asking you to take another leap of faith. He paused, his eyes scanning the crowd. This integration isn't about erasing Riverside or forcing us to become something we're not. It's about growth. It's about taking what we've built, this community of displaced wolves, of those who didn't fit anywhere else, and expanding it, giving it the resources and protection to help even more wolves find their home. Elena stepped forward to join him. I know change is scary. I know some of you are worried about losing what makes us special. But I promise you, the heart of Riverside will remain. Our values, our focus on individuals, our acceptance of those who don't fit traditional molds. That's not negotiable. That's who we are. And that's who will remain. A wolf from the Blackwood pack stood up. What about those of us in Blackwood? What do we get out of this? Nathaniel answered. You get innovation. You get a model for how packs can evolve to meet modern challenges. And you get the satisfaction of knowing we're helping wolves who have nowhere else to turn. That's always been part of the Blackwood legacy. Strength used in service of others. The discussion went on for hours. Questions were asked. Concerns were addressed. And slowly, Elena could feel the mood of the crowd shifting from skeptical to cautiously optimistic. Finally, Nathaniel called for a vote. All those in favor of moving forward with the integration proposal, make yourselves known. Hands rose throughout the crowd. Not all of them, but a clear majority. Elena felt relief wash over her. Then it's decided, Nathaniel declared. We'll begin the integration process next month. There will be challenges ahead, but I believe we're ready to face them together. As the crowd dispersed, Elena found herself surrounded by pack members from both sides, asking questions and expressing their hopes for the future. She answered each one patiently, feeling Damien's presence beside her, a steady anchor in the chaos. Later, as they walked back to their cabin under a sky full of stars, Damien pulled Elena close. We did it, he said, wonder in his voice. We actually did it. We did, Elena agreed, but this is just the beginning. The hard work starts now. I know, but I'm not afraid. Not with you beside me. Elena stopped walking and turned to face him fully. Damien, I need to tell you something. Concern flickered across his face. What is it? I forgive you, she said simply. For the lies, for the deception, for all of it. I've been holding on to that anger for so long, using it as a shield to protect myself. But I don't need it anymore. I trust you. Completely. And I forgive you." Damien's eyes filled with tears. "Elena, let me finish," she said gently. "I forgive you. But I also need you to forgive yourself. You've spent a year punishing yourself, trying to earn back what you think you lost. But you need to understand, you didn't lose me. I'm right here. I've been here the whole time, choosing you every single day." "I don't deserve you," Damien whispered. "Maybe not," Elena said with a small smile. "But you're stuck with me anyway. So stop trying to deserve me and just love me. That's all I need." Damien pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. Through their bond, she felt his love, his gratitude, and finally, the beginning of self-forgiveness. "I love you," he said, "more than I ever thought possible." "I love you too," Elena replied. Now and always. They stood there in the darkness, two souls bound together by choice rather than fate, by honesty rather than deception. The path that had brought them here had been painful, but it had also been necessary. They'd been broken and rebuilt, and in the rebuilding, they'd become stronger than either of them had been alone. The integration process began the following month. It was messy and complicated, with challenges arising daily. There were territorial disputes to resolve, cultural differences to navigate, and pack members on both sides who resisted the changes. But Elena and Damien faced each challenge together, supported by Sarah and Nathaniel. Slowly, the two packs began to function as one, creating something new and unique. A pack that honored tradition while embracing innovation, that valued strength while making room for those who didn't fit traditional molds. 6 months into the integration, Elena stood in the Great Hall at Blackwood Estate, the same hall where her world had shattered 2 years earlier. But this time, she wasn't there to confront painful truths. She was there to celebrate. The hall was filled with pack members from both Riverside and Blackwood, gathered for the official ceremony marking the completion of the integration. Damien stood beside her, handsome in formal attire, his hand warm in hers. Nathaniel stepped forward to address the crowd. 2 years ago, my son returned from the dead. It was a shock, a betrayal, and a gift all at once. Today, we celebrate not just his return, but what he and Elena have built together, a pack that represents the best of both our traditions. Sarah joined her father, holding a ceremonial banner that bore both the Blackwood and Riverside sigils intertwined. This banner represents our unity. 2 packs, one purpose, to provide strength, support, and home to all wolves, regardless of their past or their place in traditional hierarchies. She handed the banner to Damien and Elena together. They raised it high, and the crowd erupted in cheers and howls of approval. Later, as the celebration continued around them, Elena and Damien slipped away to the balcony overlooking the forest. The moon was full, casting silver light across the landscape. "Do you ever regret it?" Damien asked quietly. "Staying with me? Forgiving me?" Elena considered the question seriously. "There are moments when I remember the pain, and it still hurts. But regret? No, because everything we went through brought us here. To this moment, to this life we've built together. And I wouldn't trade that for anything." Damien pulled her close, and she rested her head on his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. "Thank you," he whispered, "for seeing past the lies to the man I wanted to be, for helping me become him." "You did that yourself," Elena said. "I just chose to witness it." They stood there in comfortable silence, watching the forest and listening to the celebration behind them. The journey had been painful, but it had also been transformative. They'd been broken and rebuilt, and in the process, they'd created something beautiful, a love based on truth, a partnership based on equality, and a future full of possibility. As the night wore on, and the moon climbed higher in the sky, Elena felt a deep sense of peace settle over her. The truth had shattered her, yes, but from those shattered pieces, she'd built something stronger, something real, something that would last, and that, she thought, was worth every moment of pain.